Hello YouTube, this is Out of the Cave Philosophy, and I came across an interesting concept while talking to people online while at Buffalo Wild Wings, supposedly watching the UFC fights. I enjoy going to UFC and watching mostly the main event. I usually get online and start conversations with strangers. And so this one was interesting because for whatever reason, vegan stuff has been posting on my Facebook page. And I started asking questions about different topics relating to veganism, and I'm trying to see how consistent vegans can be. And then it turned out from, can vegans be consistent? Is veganism even sustainable? Now, how I got this ideal that I'm about to talk to you about is people suggesting to drink almond milk as opposed to cow milk or mammalian milk. It doesn't have to be a cow. It can be pig milk, dog milk, cat milk, badger milk. But anyways, this was interesting because I am interested in bees. I'm interested in keeping bees. I want to produce a honey. I'm not going to make money off the honey far as being able to live off the earnings, but I want my bees to kind of pay for themselves, hopefully. I also want to produce beeswax. And so before this ideal popped in my head, I knew that the vegan pages were being advertised on my Facebook page because of other conversations I had with people. I was like, is honey vegan? I've been asking this question on all the vegan pages that pop up, and the more vegan pages I comment on, the more vegan pages show up on my Facebook. And so I've been asking a lot of people, and some vegans claim that bees and honey is vegan because you're not eating the bees, and also some will say the bees are not animals or insects. And true, also, keeping bees to make honey is a very sustainable thing to do. You don't actually have to kill the bees if you do it correctly, and you don't have to destroy the bees' home if you do it correctly. And if you do it correctly, the bees will not lose food and they will not starve. So keeping bees and getting honey can be very beneficial for humans and the bees as well, because when there are times where there's not a high nectar flow, the beekeeper actually feeds the bees in these times of dearth. So keeping bees theoretically can be vegan if you don't consider it bee slavery, which some people do. And so I've been asking on different pages that are vegan, is honey vegan? And I've gotten some people to say yes, and I've gotten some people to say no. And one of these people said no, and they put XXX on it. I guess she thought, Sarah, I guess she thought that I was vegan, and I was inquiring because I want to decide if I'm eating honey or not. Now, this is interesting because I watched a very interesting documentary on pollinators. Because I'm interested in beekeeping, I wanted to learn more about bees, and this was a documentary on Netflix or Amazon, I can't remember, I think it was Amazon Prime, and they were talking about pollinators, and the major focus of this was beekeepers shipping truckloads of bees to different places all over the U.S. so that those plant-based foods can be pollinated and grow. In fact, 1/3 of the plant-based food in America that's produced is produced because of domesticated bees. Native pollinators cannot do this on this scale. And one of those plant-based foods that the bees are absolutely necessary for bees to intervene in is almonds. And it's interesting because, and keep in mind, this is Out of the Cave Philosophy. We're talking about ideals here and stuff. Ideals, theology, so on and so forth. But what's interesting is that a lot of these let's just pretend that vegans don't have a problem with enslaved bees, owned bees, bees that work for humans. The majority of these almond farms or plantations, and not only almonds, but apples and the rest of the food that's produced in America using bees. The problem is that they use herbicides and insecticides to protect their crop. Now, what does this do? Well, you get in front of these beehives that the beekeepers shipped to these farmers. They're on rent. The farmers, the plantation owners, are renting these bees from beekeepers. Both of these people really like the bees. The beekeepers like them because they take care of them, they pay for them, they put a lot of effort into keeping them. The plantation owners rent them, and they're necessary for their business to thrive. So it's very interesting. You get like 3-inch thick layers of dead bees around these beehives. You get thousands of bees dead with every other hive. And this adds up to millions of domesticated honeybees dying in agriculture. And it's sad because these bees are very important not only to the beekeepers but to the plantation owners. And they're also necessary for our plant-based food industry to thrive in America. Not only thrive, but to exist. They say if bees are extinct, the human race is extinct. So this is very interesting. So I commented to a few of these people. I was like, okay, if honey isn't vegan, now is almonds vegan? The almond industry is reliant on domesticated bees, but because agricultural practices, millions of bees die a year to produce almonds, apples, and other pollinator-reliant fruits, vegetables, and nuts than harvesting honey can ever produce. I say more bees die in this agricultural pollinating business than honey producing. Like I said, when you produce honey, your main goal is not to kill your bees, and you can do it with minimal death to the bees. In fact, I have a flow hive. You don't even have to open the hive to get honey out. So I said more die and pollinate shipped to plantations than harvesting honey can ever produce. Without bees, veganism fails. What are your thoughts on this? As someone who is interested in bees, I am curious. And so that was my question. And ironically enough, and I guess this doesn't have to be ironic, but I posted this on Instagram because, I thought it was an interesting concept. And a verified Instagram user called the Tativ Vegan Cook, Tati Tati Vegan Cook, and that's what her page is about, is vegan cooking. She liked that post that I made. I've never had a verified person like anything I post on Instagram, and so I thought, this is really fascinating to me because I got 2 people say that honey is vegan, and then I had 4 or 5 people say honey is not vegan. But if honey is not vegan because it enslaves bees, takes something from bees that belong to bees, because honey is a bee product, it would stand to reason that shipping bees to plantations, farms, and so on and so forth would also not be vegan because you're enslaving bees. And I don't really believe it's enslaving bees. I'm just using that as a descriptor. But and then when they're being used on those plantations, a big chunk of them are dying. So if I have any vegan viewers, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. Does this mean that veganism is not sustainable? Because you're either eating vegan and you have no food to eat, or you're eating vegan and you're using bees, exploiting bees to support your vegan diet. Again, I am a omnivore. I eat meat, I eat fruits, vegetables, nuts, meat, fish, chicken. I like barbecue and I like cheese. I am not a vegan. I don't see myself ever becoming a vegan. But I'm trying to see if veganism is one consistent and sustainable. But I do care about the environment. That's something that a lot of people don't realize. Hunters care a lot about the environment, generally speaking. They spend a lot of time planting stuff. They spend a lot of time feeding animals and making their hunting area ideal for life to thrive. And if you listen to Ted Nugent, he'll say one arrow, one animal. He'll also say that with a tofu farm, you have to kill every mole, vole, bug, bird. You have to kill everything to keep your tofu healthy. I'm not sure if that's completely true, but it is an interesting concept. Hunters love the environment, and they like to protect it. That's why we have, national parks and state parks and public hunting areas and hunting leases and stuff. This is land set aside for the environment and for people to interact with. Now, stay with me here. Hunters like the environment. People who eat meat generally want a healthy ocean. We don't want a polluted ocean. We don't want that stuff in our fish or other seafood that we might eat. But let me just say something. I think meat is very important for the human body. I think that vegetarians and vegans are well-meaning. I just don't think it's sustainable. More so with vegans than vegetarians. I will say this, it's not my place to tell a vegan or a vegetarian to eat meat or not eat meat. That is completely their choice. In fact, the Bible commands me not to push meat on non-meat eaters. God says that everything is for us to use and enjoy, and we're supposed to be stewards to the environment. But I just don't think that if you're a vegan, you can live consistently and that it's sustainable when at least 1/3 of the U.S. Plant-based food being produced relies on domesticated bees. Now, if you're the kind of vegan or vegetarian that says that bees are vegan, their honey's vegan, their beeswax is vegan, and stuff, it's still difficult to live consistently when the bees are dying and the shipped to rented that'll be the bees that are shipped and rented out to these plantations. Now, there's a lot of ground being made in sustainable farming, which I think is amazing. But just to kind of, I said that the native pollinators can't keep up. They can't. The bumblebee is becoming extinct. Butterflies are not as plentiful as they used to be, and that a lot of that has to do with the American lawn, which I hate. To be able to sell food in a marketplace like Whole Foods or Walmart or what have you, you got to produce a lot of food very fast and on schedule. And domesticated bees are necessary for that. And they're not just necessary to produce them on a large scale, but they're also necessary to produce them, period. So that's my video. Like I said, if you're vegan, more power to you. I have no ground to stand on to tell you to not be vegan, but I do have ground to question if it's theoretically, philosophically consistent and viable. So that's the video. And again, I'm planning to be a beekeeper because I like the environment, and I believe that keeping bees is one of the best things you can do for the environment. Even if you do not eat the honey and you do not harvest wax, I think that keeping bees is a really cool thing. About honey. Honey is basically a processed nectar. The bees don't produce it like how mammals produce milk. They get nectar from flowers and other plants, and then they put it in the honeycomb. I think, if I remember correctly, they buzz the wings on it to kind of dehydrate it and make it more syrupy. And that is the basics, if I understand it correctly, of how honey is made. So it's not like if you eat honey, you're eating or drinking bovine milk or mammalian milk. So to me, honey is just as much plant-based as an almond or a peach or an apple. It's just a different worker is harvesting it and putting it through the factory. So that's it. That's the video. I'm starting to ramble. I'm interested to hear what you think about that. These are conversations I had on Facebook, Instagram, and I thought it'd be a good topic for the Out of the Cave Philosophy channel, because this is about philosophy and theology and thoughts, ideals, and what they're about. So that's it. I'm Out of the Cave Philosophy, and I'm out.